Hello everyone! Thank you for joining me for the second video in our engagement series. My name is Patrick and I'm a volunteer coordinator at the Best Friends Animal Society in Salt Lake City. I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy physically, mentally, and emotionally. Right now it is especially important for all of us to make sure we're taking care of our own health as well as our families and our communities and of course our pets as well. Today we're going to be making some dog toys, some fleece woven dog toys. Of course I say dog toys, but you can use these for cats too. There's no rules against it. You can make little tiny ones. And the great thing about this type of toy is they can be really adjusted to your pet's individual play style. If your pet really likes to play fetch, you can make a toy with a knot on one end and a really nice tight weave. And that's really good for throwing and fetching and chewing. If your pet prefers to play tug, you can make a bigger one with a knot on either end. That looser weave makes it a lot more stretchy and fun. Or if your pet is like mine and he really enjoys thrashing around and whipping toys all over the place and generally causing a ruckus, you can make an extra long one with extra knots in it that's just great for whipping all over the place. So pretty much the sky's the limit on these. You can make them any size. You can incorporate other toys. You could maybe even weave some of these strands through a Kong toy or another toy so that they've got a part of the weave on either end. There's lots of options for this. So, sky's the limit. Have fun with it. The first thing you're going to need to do is gather your supplies. For these, we just used some old fleece blankets that we had hanging around the Life Saving Center. Fleece is a really good material for dog toys because it doesn't come apart in strands like a rope might. Strands can be potentially dangerous for animals if they swallow them, so it's important to monitor your animals with any new toy. Even these ones, they may not always come apart in strands, but you still want to make sure your dog isn't eating any part of this. If you don't have felt just sitting around, or fleece sitting around, you can use other materials. You can use felt. You can upcycle some old blankets or sheets or t-shirts. Just any material that doesn't come apart in strands like we were talking about. Now, the first thing you're going to do once you have your materials is cut it into long strips. These aren't as long as you necessarily want to make them. These are just as long as our blankets were. Basically, the length of the strip is going to determine how long the final toy is. Since there are two different types of toys we were talking about, the ones with a knot on either end, these are going to be about half the length of your original strip, and possibly a little less than that, depending on how tightly you weave it. And toys that you make with a knot on one end, this uses two strips that are doubled over, so it's only going to be about a quarter the length of your original strip. As for the width of the strips, about 2 inches is a pretty good width to use. If you make them a little bit smaller, a 1-inch strip is going to make a toy that is good for cats or really small dogs. The smallest of mouths can get around that. If you use wider strips, you'll just have a larger, bit more bulky toy, a little more heavy duty as well. Up to about 4 inches, that's where it starts to get really difficult to weave with. So you don't necessarily want to go any bigger than that. But with the wider strips, you can also double them in half or even wind them up into cords in order to make them easier to work with. So first I'm going to demonstrate how to make a toy with a knot on just one end. Let me adjust my camera here. All right, clear out my space. So to make a toy with just one knot, like this one, you're going to use 2 strips, and you're just going to lay them out in a cross pattern like this. Now, whichever color is on the bottom of that cross is going to be the color on the end of your toy. So choose wisely. You want the middle of the strip to be right around, well, the middle of each strip to be in the same spot. So this one needs to move a little bit to about there. Now it doesn't 100% matter, but the closer you get to having both of them in the middle, the more material you'll have to work with on either end. So in order to start your weave, you're going to take the strip that's closest to you and fold it over so that it crosses over one other strip. Then you're going to take that one you just crossed, and that's going to fold and cross over 2 strips, both of these. Now you take the third one, that crosses over 2 strips as well. And then the final one goes through the loop you made when you folded your first strip. So that makes a nice, neat little square like that with colors on either side. Now, for this first one, for this toy, you want to be really careful about tightening this down. You want to do it evenly so that the middle stays put. You can kind of hold it in place with one hand while you pull each side. Once you've got it down to there, you just want to pull each color at a turn and gently ease it down into a nice tight knot right at the end. That's going to be the base for your toy. Now, there's 2 ways to go from here. Depending on how you weave it, the pattern on the final toy is going to be different. So if I was to continue and keep going counterclockwise like I did in the first run, you'll end up with a toy where the colors spiral around like this. If you keep on going the same direction each time, you'll get that spiral. If I then instead went clockwise with the second one, that's how you get a toy with solid colors on each side. So it's really up to you. Honestly, your pet probably doesn't care what color is on what side. This is just for your own edification. And if you want, you can do alternate, so there's color on one side, and then rotate it for a little bit, and then alternate again. So yeah, there's lots of options for how to make that toy look its best. So I'm going to keep on going the same direction. So it looks a little confusing when you first are watching this. If I'm not explaining it well enough, there are 100 how-to videos on YouTube that you can look up as well. But once you actually start doing this weaving, it really makes a lot of sense. Basically, you're just going over 1, over 2, over 2, and then through. So super easy. You get the hang of it pretty quickly, and you're going to cinch it all the way down. And there you go. So again, I was talking about how you can have a different tightness of the weave. If you really cinch it down tight, you'll get a really hard weave that is good for chewing. If you don't cinch it down quite as tight, you get a much more flexible weave that's stretchier and bouncier. So it really depends on what your animal likes and how they play, and you can adjust your toy accordingly. So in order to make a one-strand toy, that's the basics. Then I can show you there's another one I made with all one color. Once you get down to just a couple inches on either side, it gets really difficult to do that weaving anymore, so it's time to just tie it off. With the one-knot toy, you just tie alternate sides. Really pull those tight. And then once you've got your knots tied, you can just kind of snip off the excess. I'm going to do a double knot on this one to hold everything in place. And then you can snip off the excess, or you can just leave it loose if your dog likes to have something they can hold on to and whip around, however you want to do it. Okay, so that pretty much covers how to make the one-knot toy. So in order to make a two-knot toy, you're going to need 4 strips. And again, you can use whatever colors you like. I just used 4 different colors so that we can kind of keep them in order while we're weaving. So you want to lay each of those strips out so that the ends are all together on one side. And then you want to tie a knot on this side. Now again, this is the basis for your whole toy, so you want to make this knot as tight as you can make it. So I'm going to pull that through. There we go. And then you really want to pull it tight and also kind of roll that knot up towards the end. The more material you have on this side, the more toy you're going to end up with. So really pull that as tight as you can, and that'll get a good solid base for your final toy. You can also kind of spread these out to make it look nice when you're actually playing with it. So in order to weave your 4-strand toy, it's going to be the same procedure as we saw. I'm going to show you a slightly different technique where you hold the knot with one hand, and then you can use your fingers in order to keep tabs on how you're weaving. So you want to set each strand out north, south, east, and west, and you're going to start with the one that's closest to you. So I'm going to start with green here. Put your thumb up and put that across the center of the knot, and then fold this. Since I'm using my left hand, I'm folding this over my thumb, and you want to go over 1, and then the next one goes over 2. Then you can kind of tuck that under your index finger. The next one goes over 2. You can tuck that under your middle finger, and then through. Now your thumb is still in place in that loop so that you can use that to tuck the final strand through. And then again, just pull it all tight. Since you've got a knot on this end, it doesn't really matter how you pull it. Just take each strand in turn and yank it all down tight. Here, actually, I'm gonna cinch it a little better there. Now, similar to the other one, depending on what pattern you want in the final toy, you can either continue going clockwise, I went clockwise with that one. You can continue going clockwise, or you can switch it up and go counterclockwise using your other hand, and that will end up with a pattern with each color going on a straight line down the toy. So again, over 1, over 2, over 2, and through. Cinch it all down nice and tight. And just continue. I'm not going to do the whole thing. If you want to see an entire one made, there are some YouTube videos where someone sits there for 40 minutes and just weaves through an entire toy, but I'm not going to do that to you folks. I'll just do a couple more just to show it really also doesn't matter what color you start with on each individual weave. Just as long as you're following the pattern that you choose and keeping it tight, you'll get that pattern. So with these toys, once you do get down to the end, again, you just need to tie a knot in the other side. In this case, you would sort of, obviously it's not done yet, but loop it around and tie it through. And then you want it to be, you want the knot to end up past the weave, but only just. So you kind of have to, you can roll that knot up and down the toy in order to get it in the right place before you really pull it tight. All right. So that pretty much covers this particular type of toy. I'm going to see if I can get one of my dogs to come over and play with one for you. Frank. He's been watching me make these all day, and now he might actually want to play with one. No? This one? Sure? Come on. Okay, well, I kind of bribed him to be in this video, and he's not super interested in the toys. He just wants the green bone that I promised. So, can you sit? Good job. All right, well, thank you for joining me anyway. I hope you enjoy this. I, again, hope you're staying well. Look forward to doing some more videos like this. We may do some training videos, some exercise videos. If you want to see anything in particular, feel free to leave it in the comments. And other than that, have a great day.